It's Thursday and it's Supconnect Live and we're waiting to connect. Glad you're here. Hello, stand-up paddle community. It's Thursday. We're at a special time. It's 4 p.m. Pacific time rather than 1, but so glad to have you here. Supconnect does these, and my name's Kristin Thomas, and I am able to be the host and really grateful for that. Want to remind you that there's a Facebook group also called Supconnect Live Discussions, where after these great talks, we are posting pictures and links if anything was talked about to races or our interviewees, different social media platforms, etc. So today, I hope you're up on your acronyms because our guest is called by Dave Bainey the OG GOAT. And if you don't know what that means, you will soon. But you will know her because she is just one of the best all around, all time for our young sport, both sup racers and sup surfers. I am going to jump in and find her, but I think you probably know who I'm talking about. It is Candice Appleby from San Clemente, California, and I'm thrilled to have her with us, not only as a top sup racer and supper, but so many other things. Instructor, leader, coach, speaker, so many things. Candice Appleby, we're so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I know you had a busy day, so thanks for making the time to be on here.
My
You
pleasure.
are OG GOAT. That's what I said Dave Bainey calls you. Original gangster, greatest of all time. And in the, what do we say, there's 12 or 14 years you've been doing this and our sport has been
14.
around? Yeah.
Yeah, 14.
There is no one between the racing and the surfing who has as many titles and has had so many accolades. So, wow, Candice Appleby, the woman.
Thank you.
She's here. So
Thank you.
great. We usually start kind of your water life, which I know you had water life pre-sup,
Yeah.
and kind of what hooked you on stand-up paddling. So tell us a little bit about your water history.
So I grew up surfing and, well, I was in the water when I was 2 weeks old. My first experiences were Newport Beach. My grandparents had a beach house. And when I was really small, we actually lived inland, but my parents would take me to the beach to San Onofre every weekend. And I started surfing, like proper surfing, when I was 9. And before that, I was just boogie boarding and body surfing. And then my mom taught me proper when I was 9 years old, started competing when I was 10 years old. At the time, we were still living an hour away from the beach in a town
Wow.
called Glendora. So we would drive all the way to Sano every weekend. And then our dream came true. When I was 11, my parents made the move to San Clemente, which was just the best thing that my sister and I could have ever hoped for. And so I continued surfing, competing in longboarding and shortboarding, and we had a great surfing club at San Onofre, the San Onofre Surfing Club. If anybody out there surfs San Onofre regularly, make sure you sign up for the surf club. It's $20 for the year, and the club takes care of the beach. But
I just love that commitment of your family because I hear stories like that they would come every weekend, and you have that tradition. You've kept it the whole time. That Sano
yeah,
is such a special place and such a family place. And how stoked were you as a Grom that you actually moved to the coast then to not have to do that hour commute?
yeah, it was an absolute dream come true. My parents moved to a street in San Quentin called Barcelona, which is right up the street from T Street, a popular surfing break.
Yeah.
And so when I was in middle school, I'd, take the school bus and come home from school, grab my shortboard and run down the street and go surf. And by the time I was in high school, we have a surf team at San Clemente High School. So I got to take surfing as a class, and I'd surf every day before school and get a grade for it, which was awesome. And while I was there, our team was very competitive. So we were champions all 4 years I was there. And lots of men and women surfers from San Clemente went on to become professionals. We got some guys that are on the tour right now doing really well.
Cool.
Greg Long, who's a big wave surfer, the Godowskis brothers, Nate Yeomans, and so many more that came out of San Clemente. But those guys were on the surf team with me at the time. And then when I was a senior in high school, my plans were to move to Hawaii to continue my education and pursue a career in surfing. And so I moved to Oahu when I was 17. And cool story is when I was 17, I got asked to be on the U.S. team for shortboarding, which
Shortboard.
USA
Okay.
Surfing. And we were going to go to the ISA World Games in South Africa in Durban. But it was a really expensive trip, and I couldn't afford to go on that trip. And, you know, some people choose that route. Like if I had, that's a huge stepping stone to get invited to be on that team, to becoming a professional. And not many people turn that down, right? And so for me, it wasn't something that my family could really afford, and I would have missed my first week of college. And so I didn't go on that trip, which at the time was disappointing towards my shortboarding goals, but I think God had other plans because he had this whole other sport for me, stand-up paddling, that didn't even exist yet, really, in the mainstream. So I moved to Hawaii. I went to the University of Hawaii and studied tropical plants and soil science. And while I was there, my first year, I did school and surfed in Waikiki. And over the course of being there for a few years, I started competing again in longboarding and in shortboarding. And one season I was spending a lot of time at Makaha Surf Beach, and just fell in love with that place and all the people, and was mentored by some incredible families, the Froyseths and Keolanas
So neat.
and Sotos. And I think Tanae might be watching right now. So shout out. But we had a little funny joke because at Makaha people would call me Nalu Girl, because the Nalu Froyseth is kind of a fair-skinned, redheaded Hawaiian, and he has a very progressive surfing style. So the kind of running joke with it was that I was the long-lost Froyseth daughter.
Oh, okay. Because
But
somebody asked if you were Nalu's, and I'm like, what does that mean? So I'm just learning right now. And it says, Makaha loves you from the Makaha Surf Club.
Oh, well, I love Makaha, and it's just such an amazing place. And so while I was there, I spent a season, doing a lot of longboarding and kind of doing everything, because Makaha celebrates everything. And that's really the place where people were doing a lot of sup surfing in the early days. So this was in 2006.
Wow.
I was there 2007.
That is early.
Yeah. So I was watching a lot in 2006, and you had, the DeSotos were shaping boards, and different families, all the different Hawaiian families were making the boards and using old tandem surfing boards. Actually, a lot of the old infinity boards, because there's a lot of great tandem surfers in Makaha, and the world's best watermen. And some of the best tandem surfers were the infinity boards. So there would be people sup surfing on the old infinity tandem.
That's so cool that was a new use for tandem boards. Who knew, or they didn't know? I mean, they were into tandem too. But I've heard that quite a bit now, that a lot of people's first stand-ups were tandem surfboards.
Yeah. So my first experience, I finally got, I watched and learned for a really long time. I was watching the guys there sup surfing, and those families are really the people that shared it with the most people. I'd say, Laird definitely popularized it because of his fame, but a lot of the families from Makaha were really sharing it with the masses. And so I was watching and learning, and then Rusty Keolana gave me a paddle, and it was one of the very first paddles that actually crossed the Molokai Channel. I still have it.
Wow.
And it was
special.
81 inches, which at the time was this high over my head.
Oh my gosh, your shoulders.
And I went back to Waikiki, because I was living in Waikiki and then spending a lot of time at Makaha. And I would kind of hustle the beach boys early in the morning and just be like, can I borrow a board, And at the time, there weren't really production boards out yet. So I would just borrow the biggest rental surfboard at the time. And I think it was a Mickey Munoz. It was 11 feet, made by Surf Tech. And I just go out there with the paddle that I had and practice all the things I'd seen the guys at Makaha doing. And I was just hooked. I would be out there for 5 or 6 hours a day.
So were you pretty much doing it on your own there, or were there some other people on the Waikiki side?
There was definitely people in Waikiki that were doing it, some of the beach boys, and there was a couple people doing it, but it wasn't as, in those early days, it wasn't like everybody, right? It was a lot of the watermen, a lot of the beach boys. Stand-up paddling originally was called beach boy style surfing. And the very first stand-up paddle competition was actually at Makaha during the Buffalo Big Board Surfing Classic, which is a competition that celebrates every type of
Everything.
ocean activity, right? And there's
I
like
love
15
that.
different disciplines. There's
Mm-hmm.
canoe surfing and tandem surfing and bully boarding, which is like a giant oversized boogie board where you can either tandem bully board, or there's the 250-pound plus division boogie boarding. And
Love
it's
that.
awesome. So they added stand-up surfing for the first time.
And
And
what year was that? So
I,
2007 or 8?
I want to say, no, that was even earlier.
Okay, cool.
Danae, if you're watching, what was that stat?
What
I
year?
think it was 2000,
We need to document this
2005.
history.
I
Yeah,
have it written down, but
cool.
if you're watching tonight, put that year on there, because I think it was 2004,
Maybe you put
not
it in
sure,
yours.
2005. But so yeah, that was
That,
my start, and I just practice. And by the end of that first summer, I was doing. He said not
you're
sure
not
either.
sure.
But by the end of that first summer, I was doing competitions, and there wasn't any women's divisions at the time. I was just competing with the guys, and
Well, I'm going to throw out one of the questions from the audience. Veronica wants to know what your favorite win was. And I have to say, one of mine is that very first one when I found out, and I think Supconnect actually has it on their YouTube, that you were in the finals. You were the only woman in the finals, and you won. That was the year, right?
It was
Yeah.
pretty exciting. And Tanae just told us 2005 for the first Sup event at Makaha. But
Wow.
yeah, that was the Duke's Ocean Festival in
Oh, okay. I'm
2008.
sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was so just incredible, dream come true. There was, just to go back and set the time frame, it was
Mm-hmm.
2008. There was a open pro division, which is the one that I was in with the men, and there was a women's division. I won that as well. There was also an amateur division that Slater Trout won, and
Ah.
Kai Lenny won the kids division.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. And it was so incredible. I remember going through all the different rounds throughout the week, because the Duke's Ocean Festival is a week-long celebration. So some of your preliminary rounds happen earlier in the week. And it was the semifinal, and I was in a semifinal with Dwayne DeSoto, Kamo Owai, and I think it was Noah Shimabukuro, or it was Brian Keolana. And I remember
Noah was in it because I interviewed his now wife about
yeah.
Sup Yoga. And I don't know if you know, but she teaches at San Clemente High School.
Oh,
And she's
cool.
married to Noah Shimabukuro.
Shimabukuro, yeah.
I can't say it right. Still working on it.
I saw him, he was at Santa last week, so I saw him surfing, so that was cool. But yeah,
world.
so the semi, I remember I was in the shower at Queens right there, Kuhio Beach in Waikiki, and they were saying the results, and they say the results backwards, fourth place, third place.
Yeah.
And when you get to second and first, that's who advances to the final. And when they said, fourth place, I think it was Kamo Owai, third place, Dwayne DeSoto, which, like, okay, these two guys are like two of my favorite surfers of all time. Most incredible, like, world class. Dwayne's a world champion longboarder. And they said their names, fourth, third, and then I was second, like, which meant I made the final. And I was like, actually I think I had some tears in the shower. I was so excited.
Course, yeah.
And then I had a few days, throughout the rest of the week before the final was going to happen. And I remember I was really training hard that year. I had a trainer in Waikiki, and I was really doing a lot of visualization for the first time, and just picturing myself winning. And I lived one block from the beach. I literally could grab my surfboard and run down the street in my bikini and go surfing. That's how close I was. So that was my local home break at the time. And I remember leaving my apartment telling myself, okay, when you come back, you're going to be the winner. And I was just confident, but I mean, you have to be to the game, especially when you're surfing against some of the greatest Hawaiian surfers ever, But it was incredible. I just it was still, as much as I had that strong mental attitude and I had trained, it's still wow,
Well, that's amazing. I have never been a surf contest person, and you're such an amazing competitor. I knew your background was surfing, but I didn't know all these things about training and mindset had already started were already a part of your life, I think, before you got into the racing part of it, which is just amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we could spend, I don't want to spend the whole time talking
Yeah.
about wins
Reliving it.
and but you are so accomplished in such a short time, which is just amazing. So maybe back to Veronica's question. She said her favorite win of yours was the BOP at Salt Creek, but maybe throw in one of your favorites and then maybe speak to hers too a little bit just about those.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably one of my favorite wins, just because it was such a it was just it was more than just a physical victory. It was an emotional victory. It was a spiritual victory. I'd gone through a lot the year before with injuries. I had been in an abusive relationship several years before that caused me some injuries. And then I finally dealt with the injuries, having surgeries. And then I was off 2013 and I didn't compete. And it was just, I was hard. I had this, not competing. I kind of had an identity crisis. Like, oh, if I'm not winning, who am I? And then I just had a rejuvenation in my spirit, solidified my identity in the Lord. And when I stepped on the starting line at Salt Creek, it was just me and the waves and God. And I came out on top, and it was just, you can see the emotion in the old pictures from that event that, I get fired up when I win, but it's more like in the moment. But that one was just really special because I remember that morning at Salt Creek, so many people coming up to me, encouraging me, telling me, hey, like, we heard about your story. We heard about what you've been battling with. Like, we're rooting for you. We're praying for you. Good luck today. And it was just like Veronica picked it. Like, that's probably one of my very favorite ones for sure.
Special on so many levels.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, you have multiple wins, and not everybody even remembers the Hennessy's WPA had world titles. And as you noted, those were really the first world titles. Those were around pretty early. 2008, you were the champion. That one was in Hawaii. Battle of the Paddle, of course, that's kind of, I think of it, at least I think you do too. I mean, not only is it home, but Battle of the Paddle and PPGs are where you just shine the greatest. It's so fun. Yeah, I get excited thinking about all those wins and APP now, ISA, which is huge. I mean, to be on the world podium is just a really special thing too. Speak to maybe, again, you're a dozen years in, or actually 14 maybe. Our sport is very young, both the surfing. I mean, we're still getting ourselves organized and things have changed. If you could go back and tell yourself something that you know now, like, are there things, what would you tell yourself, I think, that new to stand-up paddling? How has about
well, as I sit here on my couch with a little bit of like a twinging pain in my hip, I would have told myself to take some better care of my body for sure. I would have said, Candice, recovery is half of training. So in the
excellent advice
aspect, I would have definitely tried to implement that into my regime more and more. But I used to live in the what ifs a lot, like what I could have done different, what I should have done different. And I'm grateful that I'm in a place now that I've kind of worked past all those what ifs, and I don't should on myself anymore, right? So now I just kind of take it all in, and maybe I would have also kept more of a journal of a lot of my journeys, because in some of those early years I did so many events. I mean, in years like 2010, 2011, I was doing, I don't know, 40
all
events
of it.
a year.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so hard to process what you did, because you're going from one to the next to the next. And now sometimes when I talk story with people about things, I'm like, oh yeah, I went there. Oh yeah, that
oh yeah, I was there.
And so I would have maybe kept a better record of some of that, just to be able to look back and process the details and all the people that I met and things like that. But
yeah,
all in all, it's been, wow, just incredible.
I do want to spend a few more minutes on racing, because that, I mean, is what a lot of people know you for.
Yeah.
What equipment do you have, and why do you choose it? Do a little shout out to those you work with.
I am with Infinity. I am a Infinity speed freak, as Dave likes to call us. And Dave, Infinity is just such a great family for me to be a part of because they really celebrate the ocean lifestyle. I mean, they're all in the water. Steve, Dave, Barry, Dan, shortboarding, longboarding, single fins, wave skis. It's so cool. I see Steve down at San Onofre getting all the different adaptive surfers in the water any way they can. And Barry's out there hammering. That's Dave's mom. She's out there hammering on a race board. And for me, I'm blessed. I kind of have one of everything. So as far as race boards go, right now I have a 14-foot Blackfish. I have a 14-foot Blackfish dugout, and I have a 14-foot Whiplash dugout. And I use all three of them. The Whiplash dugout's great for flat water. The Blackfish dugout is great for upwind, downwind. And then the regular flat deck Blackfish is great for kind of everything. A little bit smoother ocean surface and surf racing, of course. And then, of course, I still have a couple 12.6s. I have the go-to 12.6 Whiplash, which I won a few PPGs on. That's a board that, Dave was trying to pry me off that board, 12.6 Whiplash. He's like,
you're attached.
he sold one out from under me. I left it in the shop and he sold it. I'm like, no, that's my favorite board. Because I'm kind of like, you got hard to teach an old dog new tricks kind of thing. I'm like, if I like it and the board is special,
you get attached.
Right? And so I have that. And then for surfing, I really love the New Deal. The New Deal is the most just fun sup surfboard around. It's a progressive longboard style stand-up board. And that board is perfect for waves like Sano and, I mean, really any kind of wave because it catches waves great, but it turns really well and I can nose ride it. But it's not a big, clunky longboard sup. It's a progressive longboard sup. And then I have a Blur and a Beeline as far as the progressive sup surfboards. And I was trying to go too small for the last, I think, 2 years. Looking back at my sup surfing was a lot better when I was on like a 7.7 or a 7.8. But then I was going down to the 7.5s and 7.4, and I'm tall. I'm 5'9", Mm-hmm. I go from, 150 to 160 in my weight throughout the year, depending on where I am in the season. So I'm not a small surfer and I need the volume and the balance. But so this year I got back on a 7.8 and I'm feeling a lot better. And the nice step deck Blur version 2, I have the production board of that, and he made me a custom as well. And then my longboards, which are like, longboarding is my first and forever love.
Which was interesting that you said you almost went to the Olympics with shortboarding, because I think of you have such beautiful style. I think of you as a longboarder.
Yeah, I am.
Where your heart is.
Thank you so much. But some people say that I shortboard my longboard. That's more like my longboard style. But I just got 2 new longboards from Dave from Infinity, and they're beautiful. I got a progressive thruster longboard, and then I got a pretty cool new single fin as well. So I'm blessed that they make everything, and I kind of have one of everything, and I'm just so grateful. I've been surfing more lately too, which has kind of been the blessing of COVID in a way that, I haven't had a season off in 14 years. I've had injuries, but I'm always trying to bounce back to get on a start line, and
mm-hmm.
I'm still training, but really there's not much going on. So I'm able to do some more surfing and try all the cool Infinity boards that I have. So
great. Yeah, I think I mean, strange times we're in, and it's difficult, and of course can be sad that there are losses, but I think I hear a lot of good positive things coming out of it, including a love for outdoors that has grown for people who didn't have it before. So we're seeing more people. Our training club has 8 new people, I think, in it since it just started up again, which is fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad you're lots
of clients for training as well too. Which people are stoked. They want to get out there.
Glad you're getting all of that in. Well, you were in early on the whole instructing and doing workshops and coaching part of it too, and have made some really important steps and part of your journey in youth, in women's part of the sport. Let's start kind of with the coaching and all and workshops. And I know you're doing a lot of that now, right? In fact, we'll make sure to put a link. I don't know how you like to be contacted, but I see you out there doing privates quite a bit, right?
Yes, I do have a lot of private coaching clients right now, and I love sharing what I love with other people. I think that my purpose is to, not to go and win races. It's really to encourage others with the gifts that I've been given, and I get so much joy in doing it. With stand up, I think I started coaching back in 2000. I think it was back in 2009. I was working for Reedy Noy, who owned
Oh
Stand Up
yeah.
Paddle magazine,
Hmm.
and we had a group called Paddle Core Fitness, and it was a fitness group that met a couple times a week down at Alamoana Beach Park, and I would just put them through a workout, and it was so much fun. I'd make them jump off their boards and climb back on and paddle around buoys, and I remember even one time this was the early days. Even Nikki Gregg came down, and showed her I showed her a workout that I was teaching these people how to do, and then she was just then jumping in on the fitness side of things.
Yeah, you guys were true pioneers. I mean, we still have pioneers. Things are still growing, but at that stage, it was definitely you needed to share because what are you doing? What are you making
Yeah,
up?
totally.
Love
It
it.
was yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
know you
really
were
cool.
coaching over there with him in Hawaii before you came back to California. That's
Yeah.
great.
And he actually was the first person that encouraged me to do a race because he saw me, paddle battling with the guys in the surf heats. And he called me one night and he said, "Hey, there's a race tomorrow. I think you should do it. Go find the biggest board you can." And so I said, "Okay." And I grabbed an 11-foot Angulo. It was like a surfing, a big surfing board. And I did a Hawaii Kai run, which is 10 miles.
Wow.
And I was like, "This is cool." Okay. Like kind of ignorance is bliss. But that was my first racing experience. But back to your question with the coaching. So I did paddle core fitness, back in those
Mhm.
early days. And then I did a couple clinics with Surf Tech. I was with Surf Tech early on, and we were together for about 7 years. I say we were together because it was kind of a relationship.
Yeah, well, Bark
Yeah,
and Joe
I
and
joked that, Joe Bark and I were married with kids boards because it was like a surfboard building marriage with Surf Tech, and we had, eventually had kids models. That's my little joke. But the, taught lots of clinics with lots of clinics on my own. And then when Anthony and I were together, we started doing clinics. We actually did the very
Mhm.
first clinic at the Carolina Cup. That was in 2012. So 2011 was the first Carolina Cup. He won that. And then the next year we came back and we put a clinic on there. And then after that, they started doing, clinics became a really big thing.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of that. We
I
also,
went to one of your early clinics
you
up in
did.
Marina Del Rey.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember it well.
Yeah. With Pro Sup Shop. Shout out
Hmm.
to those guys.
Exactly. Hey, Mike.
Awesome. And then let's see. You're really racking my brain on the
Yeah,
history.
sorry.
This is good. No,
You don't
it's
have to
good.
remember all of them. You have done a lot, and like you said, sometimes you good. I mean, your bullet points through the years are just amazing. And I
Thank
was doing the
you.
same thing. Oh yeah, she won that one and that one, and she's done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in
So
terms of youth, let's jump into youth because you guys, you have started more than one thing that really helped get it rolling. And I just did a little group thing about youth and definitely the Junior Sup Fiesta was brought up numerous times and
mhm.
requests to bring it back.
Yeah.
Um, and I was lucky to be in La Familia and part of, just your planning committee, but that was really your baby. And I think the only juniors focused events that we've ever had, right? That didn't
Yeah.
have others in it.
Yeah. That was such a good time, and I'd love to bring that back. So we launched when we officially launched performance paddling our website. We launched that in 2013, and we both we know how important it is to have encouragement at a young age, and
Mm-hmm.
that was our catalyst behind starting what became the performance paddling competition team. So when we started our our business, we wanted to give back and support some kids that we had seen as we were traveling doing races. We're like, wow, there are kids out there and they're going for it. They're charging. And so we wanted to kind of bring those kids together, have an opportunity to mentor them, but really just give them the encouragement of being chosen on the team. And so we had our idea. We had this whole little party planned where we sent invitations to, it was a dozen kids throughout the country, quite a few kids in Southern
Mm-hmm.
California, but kids in other places as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, hey, we want to invite you out to this clinic with, Anthony and I, and you're invited to our website launch party in the evening, and you've been selected, and this is free. Come out to this clinic we're going to put on. And their parents knew the whole deal, but they didn't really know what it meant. And later on at the party, we revealed to them, hey, you are going to be on the performance paddling competition team. Here's your team uniforms.
So cool.
And it was always a free program. We bought the uniforms for them, and would do clinics in various locations where the kids lived throughout the years. And over a few years it grew, and we had at one point, I don't know, like 30 kids all over the country. We even had kids in different countries. And then that year we also launched the Junior Pro Youth Sup Fiesta, and that was just incredible. As like you said, the biggest youth event in Sup, and kids came from all over the world. We'd have kids that came from Peru and Australia and Japan and Brazil, all over the United States, Hawaii. And we had, the last year it ran, we had a girl come out from Finland. Mm-hmm. And it was just incredible. We really wanted to do it like best we could. If we did it like how we would want an event run for us, and we made a little VIP area for the kids, and we put little signs like no parents allowed, and put gummy bears in there. And but we had junior pro surfing, and with equal gender prize money. And then we had 7 divisions of Sup racing and 7 divisions of Sup surfing for the kids, all young kids. And it went on for 4 years, and it grew and grew and grew. And then the one year that we didn't do it really was, there was a scheduling conflict with a world tour event, and both of us were a part of the world tour. So we did the dreaded change your event date thing. And when you do the change the event date, and then it didn't run, and then when you miss a year, sometimes it's hard to get it back going. So that's kind of what happened. We didn't really ever intend for it to stop, but we missed that 1 year, and then we both just got really busy with.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, thank you for those 4 years and those efforts. And it is a lot of work, and and you have to have the sponsorship and everything, and which you guys did a miraculous job. And I mean, you have to be proud. A bunch of those kids have gone on to be pros. I mean, you got a lot of people really fired up. Who's to say what would have happened if they didn't have those, but they had successes there. Boy, when I go back and look at the list, we actually dug up some results because we were talking age groups. Yeah. And really the age groups that you guys thoughtfully set up have been, you can say there should be an age group for every year, but that's not realistic. But they've been used at other events that have had youth programs that don't have just under, sometimes it's just under 18, but I believe PPG, BOP, and Carolina Cup and the Gorge, haven't they had events that used all of the age groups that you guys thoughtfully set up? WPA. So lots to be proud of there. But yeah, I mean, hey, anybody out there that wants to help, it is work, but it was such a magnificent event. And we really, to keep growing this sport, I mean, you said it so well. We need kids to be encouraged. We need to have pathways for growth, and a kids only event, or juniors only, is really a big part of that.
It's important. It was a really special thing because the kids got to feel like they were the superstars of the day. They weren't just a side note to an adult event. We actually had an autograph signing for our junior pros, and we had posters for them, and they got to feel, kind of like pros for the day. And then all the little kids would get in line and get autographs, and it was really special. And I definitely think it was a lasting impression on a lot of those kids. And I would love to bring it back. I love kids, and it's just got to find the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's that time and money and all. Another group within stand-up paddling that you've had a big presence in, and had the ear of race directors. Well, you've been a race director yourself too. I didn't put that in the list, but women. I mean, we really, from the start, this was a unique water sport because at the recreational level, we were seeing that for the first time there were as many men as women, or maybe even more, and that I think has been only one of the reasons, that a platform to right from the beginning in a new sport, not have to fight your way back to being equal like other sports have had to, but let's start it the right way. So thank you for what you've done there, and talk a little bit about some of the successes. I know you said you had the ear of what one of the events that didn't have a women's separate category, and you encouraged them.
Yeah, that was actually
strongly.
that was the Battle of the Paddle.
Yeah, that's right.
It was 2012. We were still racing. We would start a minute behind the guys, which meant the fastest women are trying to paddle between around the slowest guys.
Yeah,
and I ended up getting taken out by a guy that year, and it cost me the race. And I was going for my fifth one in a row, and I got taken out. And then Annabelle was like way ahead by the time I got to my feet again, and I could never recover. Like, can't really close a gap with her. Not necessarily, not a gap like that. And I wasn't blessed with a wave that day. So, but a few months after that happened, I waited for the dust to settle, because I didn't want it to be like, didn't want to sound like, sour grapes or making excuses for my loss. And I just sent them a nice email, said, hey, there's so many women. The field is so competitive. How about giving us our own race? We shouldn't be having to paddle through the back of the pack and have our race hindered by the other competitors. And there's enough of us out there. I think people would really love to watch it. And they responded. They're like, Barrett was like, okay, let's give it a go. And so they did. And it was really cool. The next year, 2013, that was the only BOP I didn't do. I was injured, and I did the commentary. And it was so cool because we got to watch it. We got to see women really have a separate race for the first time. So that was really cool. And I mean, sometimes the women's race now with POPs and PPGs at the end there, the women would happen first. And I think it gets the guys excited too, because they get to see the pro women go through the course. And I don't know, it was exciting. And those guys were great at just taking that initiative and saying, okay, well, yeah, let's give it a try. So,
yeah. Well, I think it just takes that, and this is my just kind of philosophy on life, that sometimes education is needed, that these things that seem like they're unfair are not always intentional.
Yeah.
And they just are doing things the way it was kind of set up. So no offense to surfing, but like surfing was very separate and not always equal. And, sometimes they moved over from a sport that was one thing and not another. And they've sometimes used the reasoning that there's less women than men. Well, that's such a catch-22 situation. But I think it's been a group effort, and a lot of people talk about it, but you definitely are one of the ones who've had a huge impact. There was another group effort, we'll call it, but there's an event that was only for men. And it's funny because as the mother in me has such mixed feelings, because Red Bull events are dangerous by nature to be exciting. But I also strongly feel that if somebody wants to go, they should be able to. It needs to be an individual decision. So you were definitely part of that. What was that movement called?
It was I Paddle for Equality. So when that event was coming out, I think it was the second year that they did it. I remember Annabelle did a post on Instagram kind of calling everybody out. And she did a post, and then I contacted her. I said, well, let's do something about it. Like, if we're going to post about it, let's do something about it. So I said, I have this idea. I'll contact all the girls. I'll send an email. And while the race is going on, we'll all do a social media post, and we'll synchronize it. And I said, let's do Paddle for Equality, the hashtag Paddle for Equality. She said, let's add I to it. Let's add I Paddle for Equality. So I drafted up an email, and I sent it to all the top pro women that I could at the time, and then signed it from Candice and Annabelle. I started a Gmail account. We were the female contingency at gmail.com.
Love it.
and sent an email to the girls. I think I even bought the website domain for that, but didn't do anything with it. But sent an email to the girls and the women, and people were like, okay, like, if Candice and Annabelle are getting along on something and they believe in it, like, we should,
Love that.
So
yeah, well, I've definitely, because I'm not a pro, I wasn't in that email, but that is the kind of thing that you feel instantly strongly. I went and made my sign, and I went and did my post, immediately, and it just really did go viral and
It
catch on
did.
like wildfire. And again, this is an event where I am nervous every year for my friends, like, are
Me
they
too.
all going to come out okay?
Yeah.
So it's a, but it should be a choice. It's just, again, it's shouldn't be gender specific. So was so supported that and everything about equity in the sport. I mean, you can't, all sports, but we, again, in our sport, we're so young. Why not start it correctly from the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you again for
You're,
both the youth and the
you're
women.
welcome.
Besides, I mean, you're busy winning, 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 and then still you're managed to make the time to make a
Yeah.
difference so
And
much.
thank you.
Truly.
And to your comments about, being a nervous mother and that feeling, right? So I was on the boat this last year.
Mm.
I had just broken my pinky, which is a little to the side still. But so I wasn't competing, but I was on the boat following the women's race, and I was like, I felt like I was the nervous fairy godmother too on the boat, because like
Yeah.
when the women do it or when the men do it, like that's my friends. Like when Peahi's big, I'm praying. Like I know that
Yeah.
guys going out and Zane and Connor and all those guys, like anytime there's, epic conditions, I'm always like, okay, Lord, take care of all my friends, be it Red Bull, be it
Yeah.
any other big waves. It's the ocean is a serious place, and no matter male or female, you make that
Mm-hmm.
healthy choice for yourself if you're prepared for that or not. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So you have had a chance to do some announcing, some directing. How has that been fun? Kind of new roles. You're still an amazing competitor and surfer, and once we get out of this COVID thing, we hope to see you there. But is it fun playing these new different roles in the kind of stand-up paddle world?
Yeah, I love it. It's really fun to commentate the races, especially the distance races too, because it gets to make it exciting. I know the players, I know enough about technique, and so I can help break
Mm-hmm.
that down for people at home, and I learn a lot too. I learn a lot about drafting and all those different things when I'm watching the men do it. A lot of times I'll commentate the men's race because sometimes I'm in the women's race,
Mm-hmm.
but every once in a while I get to see the women race as well, and it's really fun to watch and say nice things about the people that I know personal things, I know
Mm-hmm.
professional things, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. I think I did commentary for the very first time at the very first stand up world tour event, which is formerly stand up world tour, now APP. Their very first event at Sunset Beach was in 2009, and I competed in it. I was the only female, but I also did some of the commentary
Oh, cool.
each as well. So, but yeah, I like, it's fun to try different things, and
Yeah.
yeah, I like it, and
You've been at that for a while.
I don't like
Well,
to limit it to myself after though.
yeah,
That's awkward.
nah. So you do know a lot, and we'd love to get some tips from you. One was asked mistakes to avoid. So in terms of getting into stand up, or maybe actually doing stand up paddling, what would you say for someone who's interested in trying sup racing?
For some
Things, mistakes to avoid.
mistakes to avoid. That's a good one. Mistakes to avoid. Well, I'd say definitely starting off on the right board. First of all, especially with racing, you're the fastest when you're on your board. So if you're off your board falling, you're not going to be going very fast. So making sure that you get the right equipment for your skill level, that's really what's going to allow you to continue to progress and ultimately have fun. The whole point of doing what we're doing is to have fun. I think my biggest advice I can really give anyone is that the most important thing about paddling is that paddling is not the most important thing.
Mm.
And so keeping that in perspective and reminding yourself, if you start to get competitive, be it racing or surfing, if you're not having fun anymore, then why are you doing it? Right? You got to reset and make sure that you're still
Find a
enjoying.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great advice. And then, kind of on the flip side of that, are any tips for getting started?
Tips for getting started. Well, again, having the right equipment is really important.
Yeah.
But find out what type of resources you have in your community, be it a rental shop, a training club, someone that teaches private lessons. I think it's important to start off on the right foot with good form, good instruction. even if you're paddling somewhere that's flat water, like in a harbor or even in Dana Point Harbor, there's a lot of things that go on down there. There's boats, there's jet skis, there's, lots of different elements and wind and rocks. So making sure that the environment you're in is safe and that you're aware of what's going on, have a buddy to go with. I think that's great advice for getting started is, proper equipment, safety, and proper instruction.
Great tips. I don't know if you can see on the screen, nutritional tips, pre-race meals. Any tips in that area?
Pre-race meals. Yes, that's something that people would ask all the time in clinics. Like, what do you eat before a race? It's important to have a decent meal before you race, but I think, you don't want to ever change your whole regiment the day of a race, right? If you eat Cheerios and a banana every single day of the week before you go and train, eat Cheerios and a banana, before you go and race. I think, you don't want to veer off what your body's used to too much. I go through different phases of what I eat. I think it's good to get your meal in, your main meal in 2 to 3 hours before the race. And then you can have a snack if you're still really hungry right before the race. But having a good meal the night before and starting your hydration at 2 days before the race is actually really important. Having a good meal the night before. I love to eat salmon and salad and maybe a little brown rice or some tortellini with pesto. That's kind of like my go-to pre-race meal. Some wild salmon and pesto pasta and a salad the night before, something healthy.
I learned that hydration tip from you in a clinic, and that just made all the difference. I always just chugged water that morning and then had a sloshy stomach and had never really thought about it, that it really is something you need to work up to. Get your body hydrated. I mean, it's a great habit to have all the time to be hydrated, but definitely pre-race. So definitely a good one.
A big race, like a big race in a hot environment, starting 2 days before and getting a lot of electrolytes in as well. Because if you just drink tons of water, you can actually flush your body out of all your electrolytes. So it's okay to up your salt intake a little bit the day before as well.
Super good information. Well, you have traveled a ton. I don't know. It sounded like you had traveled some probably when you were just regular surfing, but I think stand-up paddling has taken you a lot of places. Do you have some favorite places you've been, some surprising places, or maybe places you want to go still on the list?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I really love Japan. Japan was awesome. The people were just so incredible, servant-hearted people. Took such wonderful care of me when I was over there. The food, I think Japan has the best food in the world. Lots of really great fresh fish. Let's see. Fiji. Fiji was incredible. I went to Fiji to race, though, so that took a lot of personal growth. I was there for my country. I was, mentally, I'm like, okay, I'm here to race, not here to surf. But that was pretty incredible. I've been to some crazy places too. We did a surf contest in the UAE. We were in Abu Dhabi and all.
Was that in the wave pool?
Yeah. So
that was the first time I'd seen a wave pool. Watching the footage of that was wild.
Yeah, that was crazy. I never thought I'd be out in the middle of the desert, and there's like sheikhs on the pool side with their head stuff, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't know the proper name for the garments, but it was just such a different thing culturally to be a part of. And we, as women there, we had to be covered. We had to wear board shorts and a shirt. We couldn't wear our bathing suits. So that was just a trip. I never thought I'd be going to, Abu Dhabi to do anything stand-up paddling, right?
Yeah.
I really still would love to go to Greece. I was planning on going there this year. I was going to go to 2 of the races in May, so that was on my list. And I really want to go to Italy. I have not been to Italy yet. And then, of course, I really want to go on some surf trips, just like typical surf trips. I would love to.
You've done the Mentaways,
Yeah, that's like always been. That's kind of like why I got into this whole want to be a pro surfer thing, was to go to Indo. Still haven't been there yet, but I'll get there one day.
You will. I'm sure you will. Absolutely. Well, there's so many wins and things. I don't know if you can speak to it, but the ISA, ICF thing, I know you've been very involved and been a champion at the ISAs and then helped them out and been involved with USA Surfing and helping with the teams on different levels. And I mean, I believe you were involved in this whole thing. They haven't told us yet what last fall, but last fall I know a lot of people were helping speak to it. Have you heard anything? Are we going to find out soon?
You know,
What the
I don't know what the verdict is on that. For
Yeah.
people who are watching, what she's talking about is basically the battle for the governing rights of stand-up paddling in the
Mm-hmm.
eyes of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. So the ISA currently is the governing body of stand-up paddling and surfing. They got surfing into the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Since things have gotten more popular, the ICF, the International Canoe Federation, wants to claim stand-up paddling, that they should have stand-up paddling under their umbrella because they do paddle sports. And so I did testify for the ISA at the court of
Court of
arbitration
arbitration.
of sport. It's hard to say that 10 times fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know the verdict. I'm not sure. Yeah, we don't know.
I thought maybe they're waiting for the Olympics, but the Olympics aren't happening this summer, obviously, so it's a whole year off.
Yeah,
So
not sure, but I'm sure when
yeah,
they know, we'll all know,
yeah,
and
I
we'll be
know.
able to decide. And I personally hope that it stays with the ISA because I would hate it to lose any sort of surfing element. But everybody has different people have different opinions. I just would like to see them rewarded for all the years of work that they've put into the sport as well. And speaking of ISA events, like you mentioned, you were asking earlier about some of the favorite wins and things like that. One of the coolest experiences I could say that I've had in stand up is doing my very first ISA World Championships. It was in Sayulita, Mexico, which Sayulita is already an amazing place. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I had gone there a few times for other SUP events, and just the whole vibe of Team USA that year. That was the year we dethroned Australia.
Oh yeah, and
And
there's a movie about it if anybody wants
yes,
to see that Brent
chasing
Deal made,
gold.
right? Yes,
Yeah.
Chasing Gold.
And it was so cool. We had such an incredible team. Danny Ching did some freakishly amazing stuff, and Izzy Gomez and Sean Pointer. Dave Bainey was there with us, and Slater Trout, Jack Bark. And that was just such a cool experience to march with my country's flag for the first time. And,
Mm-hmm.
those events, you're there for your country and your teammates. It's not a selfish thing. It's not for money. It's for just camaraderie. It's for your country and your community. And that was really an incredible experience.
Truly special.
Yeah.
Well, OG GOAT, as Dave would say,
Bah.
of stand-up paddleboarding. It has been fantastic to have you on and talk story. And I know we could do this for another couple hours because you have so many, even without the journal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Candice, so much. And thank you, Supconnect. And we'd love you to find us on Facebook, Supconnect Discussions. I already pulled some pictures of Candice. I hope she doesn't mind. One being from my favorite photo shoot where you are just so ripped, the one that's in the harbor.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that picture where you're flying over your board because you
Oh,
did
yeah.
a race start. I love that picture.
That's
I
one
hope
of
you
my
don't mind.
favorites. I don't mind.
But if you and Candice, if you have any links or anything that you would like people to be able to find something or find you or how to find you as a coach, let me know and we'll post them in there also.
All right. Sounds good.
This will
Thank
also
you.
this goes straight to IGTV if any of your friends missed it. And then it will be on Supconnect's YouTube channel called Supconnect Live. And I forgot to mention, you were one of the first Supconnect Live. There was a different version of this and you were the host. What, like 8 years ago or
It
something?
was the Wake Up Sup Show.
Oh, there we go. I love
Yeah.
that.
It was a lot of fun, and I would make a recipe and interview different people. You were there one time. You were one of my guests, so the
Yes.
tables have turned.
Throwing that picture in there too.
Awesome.
And we did just have, sorry, I tried to wrap it up because they cut us off actually at 1 hour. So I'm just trying to get ready for that. You did have a question. Are there any clinics? Are you teaching any clinics on the schedule now that things are opening up?
I had a bunch of clinics on the schedule for the summer, but then they got kind of canceled. So right now I'm just revisiting being able to get those things going again. So you can send me a private message about clinics, about coaching. You can send me to my Applesteve's Instagram account. And then I'll be doing some updates to my website in the next 2 weeks with all of my different coaching services, pricing for race coaching, surfing coaching, privates, group lessons, clinics, and all of that stuff. So
Great.
be on the lookout.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
We will look for that. Well, thank you, Candice Appleby.
You're welcome. Thanks, Kristin.
Appreciated having you on. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.